Andor Episode 9, Nobody's Listening. We're in the build-up episode of this prison breakout arc, and boy are things amping up. Bix on Ferrix gets interrogated for information, and it's in a way that we've never seen before, ISB style. We learn about an Outer Rim moon called Dizon Frey, whose inhabitants ended up resisting against the Empire. So what ended up happening? Well, of course the Imperials massacred them, then broadcasted the entire thing as proof of mission. Now what's messed up is that they realized the screams of the dying Dizonate children were perfect to torture people and melt their brain. So they basically created a remix of that, which is exactly what Bix was forced to endure. Now, the most effective thing about this torture scene is that you don't hear any of what she hears. You only see her react to it and imagine how that sound they play could possibly sound like, which I think was the best choice here, as nothing can beat the human imagination after all. Then as Bix is getting tortured, the scene cuts to the boots of an Imperial walking down the hallway, which is of course a reference to the same way as when Princess Leia was about to get tortured in A New Hope. And what can I say, this is pure Star Wars and a love letter to George Lucas. I love it. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, Mon Mothma tries to voice her concerns regarding Palpatine's new public order resentencing directive, describing it as governmental overreach and part of a march to authoritarianism. Unsurprisingly, she's failing in her attempt here, but it's only to keep showing us as she's literally the only one in the Senate who's not afraid to go up against the collective, go up against Palpatine. Also, the scene of the senators turning off their lights on their pods to protest Mon by not being patriotic enough about Palpatine, I suppose, and taking away more rights was so good. Mon afterwards meets up with Vel, who's come to visit her home, and we're presented with quite an interesting twist, as it turns out that Vel is actually her cousin. I thought this was a fun little reveal considering when Vel was first introduced there were a lot of theories in her potentially being related to someone, and that someone being Mon was among the more popular theories. It's also fascinating how Mon and Vel are in the rebellion and working with Luthen, yet at the same time they're both completely in the dark on what the other is doing or has done. Mon is later faced with more financial trouble as she learns from Tay Kolma that the Empire are noticing suspicious transactions by her that mysteriously disappear afterwards. So, to provide a plausible explanation for this, Tay suggests masking it as a deposit and doing it through a Chandrilan banker named Davil Skuldan, who turns out to be actually a wealthy crime boss. And after hearing this, Mon understandably isn't happy and is reluctant to work with a thug like Davo. But hey, time is limited and she has to move quickly before the Imperials catch up onto her secret rebel fund. Elsewhere on Coruscant, the ISB continue their crackdown of finding Cassian and determining who Luthen is, as they've at the moment simply codenamed him Axis. And it's during this meeting that they manage to connect Cassian with the Eldani heist and the ambush on Ferrix. One point of interest that I found in this scene was just how much independent initiative Dedra's assistant Hurt was taking, which seemed rather unusual as we've never really seen him do this, so I have no doubt that this isn't by accident and could play into something later on. I have a theory about this, but we'll get into that later. We also afterwards learn that the Empire have captured a separatist, aka rebel pilot who's part of Anto Krieger's cell. Partagast believes that Krieger is unaware of the pilot's capture and that the prisoner is telling them that Krieger is planning to raid the power station at Spellhouse. So to make sure that the Empire is prepared for that and Krieger to be none the wiser, the ISB agreed to stage an accident and use it to plant the pilot's dead body so that by seeing that, Krieger won't assume that the pilot was actually captured and killed by the Empire. We also get Cyril and Dedra's subplots intertwining again, this time with Cyril basically stalking Dedra outside the ISB headquarters and acting quite creepy. Pretty much telling her how much he admires her and how desperate he wants to help her catch Cassian, despite her feeling quite the opposite. I mean, yeah, this is red flag central right here. And this whole meeting got me rethinking things now. Because, okay, previously I was willing to buy Cyril's potential turn to the light side. But after his stalker-ish, frothing at the mouth confrontation of Dedra, then I think he's probably irredeemable by now. Then again, I'm still really interested to see where Cyril's story goes, as who knows, there might still be another twist here, and at first I thought that maybe Dedra was going to recruit him. But I think he blew his chances in this episode unless something big happens. Which goes back to my theory, and I think that might involve Hurt. As I mentioned before, Hurt in this episode has shown that he's willing to step up to the plate more than any other ISB assistant. And just what if he ends up betraying Dedra to advance his own career? And if that happens, seeing as Dedra's not really that popular in the ISB, then she could end up resorting to Cyril as her assistant. I mean, let's remember after all, Partagaz did warn Dedra to watch her back. And considering all of the backstabbing happening within the ISB, then I think this theory is at least somewhat plausible. Back in the prison on Arcana 5, Cassian is building up allies in his prison block to try and formulate a plan out. But during this time, something unexpected happens as news comes out that something horrible has happened to Level 2. Like Cassian and the rest of the prisoners, we as the viewer are left in the dark and have no idea what's going on. But we can feel the tension, the anxiety, the dark uncertainty that is looming ahead. Kino the whole time tries to downplay the entire thing, even ignoring Cassian's questions on how many guards there are on each level, as he makes it clear that he wants to be no part in his escape plan and just wants to get through his prison sentence and put all of this behind him. Which, hey, fair enough, right? However, during all of this, we start to notice something's not quite well with Olaf, the elder within Cassian's production team. As each shift comes and goes, he begins to get more visually exhausted, struggling to keep up with his teammates to the point where he ends up collapsing at the end of a shift. A medtech is called in to look at Olaf, and it says a lot that even the medics on Arcana 5 are prisoners as well. Which makes me curious on what exactly they do all day, you know, since it seems that they aren't in a building competition like the rest of the prisoners are and all of that. But no doubt it can't be anything pleasant either, just judging on how unhappy this guy looks. Dr. Rasev then ends up pronouncing Olaf brain dead on the scene, claiming that he had suffered a fatal stroke. Which, well, is no huge surprise given his old age and the grueling working conditions in this prison. I'm honestly surprised he lasted even this long, which is mighty impressive as heck, it makes you think on how you yourself would be able to last on Arcana 5, which says something. With Olaf euthanized and dying peacefully, Kino at the same time has trouble accepting this resolution, stating that Uli only had just a few more shifts before he was free and could go home. So to see this no doubt messed with him, but the worst was still yet to come for Kino. As during this whole process, both Cassian and Kino ask Rasev on what exactly happened on Level 2. With the doctor revealing that a man who was just released on Level 4 ended up going back onto Level 2 the following day. Then, when word got out, the Empire killed the entire level. Ugh. After hearing this, Cassian and Kino realize that nobody is leaving the prison after all. They're either stuck there forever or will be getting killed themselves very soon. It's at this point where Cassian asks Kino one last time on how many guards there are on each level, and we get the line, "Never more than 12. Oh, what a final line to end this episode off with. I got goosebumps seeing Kino turn and now looking like he's fully aboard with breaking out, and well, can you blame him? The whole time Kino was just desperate to keep his head down and get out peacefully. Now he knows it's no longer a possibility, so what else is there left to do? He's now come to the realization that the sole purpose in his life right now, which of course was being released and becoming a free man again, is all a lie. And that action must be taken now before he regrets not doing so later. So yeah, talk about a powerful ending to a build-up episode no less. Overall, this episode was so incredibly good, and as usual, this series keeps me hungry for more. I definitely already preferred this build-up episode to the Aldhani one, and that's saying something since I also like that one too. But as I keep repeating myself in these reviews, Andor only keeps getting better and better by the episode. The stakes and tension keep rising, and it's truly brilliant to see how the payoff episode will top the last one. And well, unlike the Aldhani heist, I have absolutely no idea how they'll break out of the prison. But I'm stoked to find out next week, which I already know will be a banger. And if I'm being honest, is not a feeling that I've had in Star Wars TV since The Mandalorian. That's big praise for Andor from me right there. And that was my take on this episode of Andor. Let me know what you all thought about the episode in the comments below. And if you haven't already, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.